and then minimize it, and now we're good to go. Please help remind me that, okay? Now, you're all here, so it's not as big of an issue, right, today. But if somebody's missing, if Isaac's not here, and Isaac wants to know what we did, how's Isaac going to know? He's going to go, and he's going to talk to one of you guys, and you're going to say something like what my kids, when I said, what'd you do at school today? Nothing. What'd you learn? You know, that's what Isaac's going to get out of the class. So that's why I record them all. The other thing is, the other reason I record them all is so that there we go. Pretend I didn't do that. And the other thing is when it comes up to tests and I say, hey, make sure you remember the basic requirements for a PC, and you go, I didn't even have it in my notebook, because nobody does. And if you don't think this is going to be on a test, it of course will be. And when you go, Mr. Poole said all he talks about is open note, and I didn't write down a single thing. Ooh, I could go back and watch the video, and then I could take notes, and then I'd have my notes. So the fact that nobody has it on a notebook, and by the way, if I go like this when I say something, you never heard of foot stomp. Foot stomp is, this is on the test, 100% guaranteed. If I foot stomp during something and say, hey, what are the required things of a PC, and I do something like that, and it's not in your notes, unless you can remember it, that's fine, then you might be making a mistake. Okay, so Memio is connected. It's anything that's, I plug in USB extra stuff. Okay, this is a keyboard and mouse. It's an extra wireless keyboard and mouse. What else do I have? Do we have here? What else do we have here at National Trail? Oh, we got LCD projectors, right? That was a hint, by the way. Every single class has an LCD projector, pretty much. There's a couple that switched this year that haven't figured out how to go in, like Mrs. Hamilton's room, because it's small and there's stuff everywhere in the ceiling. I can't figure out how to put one in there. But what else? What? Speakers. Speakers, yes. Excellent. Those are definitely optional, right? What else?
Microphone.
Microphone, yeah, we just turned that on, right? What else? I rarely do things without a reason, just so you know. Printer! Oh, yes, yeah, I had no reason to pick up that piece of paper. That was a hint, okay? If you're like, Mr. Poole, that was totally random. Why did you just pick up this piece of paper and look at the CTC student laptop list? It's like, oh, and nothing to do with what we're doing, right? Okay, so those are some of the optional things. Let's see what I put on my list when I did it. So required power, and we already said, ×2. Monitor, keyboard, mouse, and network. And I don't even have the PC on that list, do I? PC. I guess I must have assumed that's basic understanding that we're plugging in a PC, so you obviously have a PC. So I've got printer, scanner, cable, smartboard, which is Memio, so there's some other things that we even have in there, so I could smartboard/Memio and LCD, and we didn't have mic, and so those are some of the optional things that you could have on your PC. Okay, so when we go to hook them up, one of the things that you need to know is all those dang plugs that are on the back. And there's a lot of options on plugs that are on the back of a PC, and if you plug things in the wrong place, you can do a couple things. Number one, you can ruin the PC. Number two, you can ruin the cable, because students sometimes will say, this looks right, and they will just shove, okay? The size of this and the size of, well, actually, that and this are exactly the same size. The metal sleeve on the outside is exactly the same size, but this one's got, it's actually the male of this one, but so this one's only got 9 holes, and this one has, I think, 20-something holes. Okay, that's not going to go into that, or vice versa. You will ruin the cable if you try to do so. Okay, or in the case of the male port, you will ruin the PC because you'll bend all the pins, and it's almost impossible to straighten pins out. So when you go to plug stuff in, make sure you know. Oh, sorry, I grabbed that already. Make sure you know what you're plugging in, and that you're plugging it in to the right spot. Okay, so of these plugs, there's some that we use on every single PC, and there's some that we rarely use. Okay, so these two are used on most PCs. Okay. That's our video. Okay, so we have a couple different kinds of video connectors. One of them is VGA, which is an analog connection. That's what the A stands for. Actually, it's video graphics adapter, but think of it as analog. That's analog. And then we've got digital connections as well. Okay. So when I look at the plugs that we have available, and when I give you colors, I'm saying 95% of the time. It's not 100%, but I'm testing on that 95%. Most of the time, an analog video connector is blue. And most of the time, the plug on the back of the computer is also blue. Not all the time, but most of the time. The digital connector, it looks different, it's bigger, and it's white. And most of the time, the plug on the back is white. Not all the time. Okay. Some manufacturers get crazy and they use different colors, and then you're like, why did you do that? And Garrett took out my spare PCs that I had underneath there. Darn him. He was cleaning up yesterday. Let's look at all. Let's see if I can grab one. Oh, there we go. Okay, so on the back of my video card, I have this one's white and this one's blue. Okay, this has another kind of connector, which is also on here, down, it's not on there. It's not on that one. Okay, this is an older analog connection, okay, for S-Video. The newest digital connection that we use, anybody know what that one's called? No one's hooked up a TV or anything? Xbox, what?
Oh, HDMI.
HDMI, right? So HDMI is the cable that we see right there going in the back of the projector. HDMI is high definition digital output, okay? And so it's one of our great digital ones. The newer teacher video cards all have HDMI out. HDMI also carries sound with it, which is great. So if I'm playing a video, I have surround sound in my room because I bought it, put it in, but if not, you can have it come right out there out of the top. And HDMI looks just like this. And there, I have another picture that come up, but if you haven't seen HDMI before, it kind of looks like a little D plug, okay? Now, we don't have the best video cards in the world, okay? We have okay video cards that do 2 monitors just fine. Now, mine at home, I can plug something into every single one of these. Mine here at school, I get 1 digital and 1 analog output, which means I can't use that one and that one. I have to use that one or that one. Only one of those work at a time. And then I have an analog output. So that's our video output that we use on a regular basis. Most of these we don't use. That's old printer connector. We don't use those. That's a really old printer connector. I think I threw all those things away quite a while ago. But the one that we do use on a regular basis is USB. USB, there's only one way to plug it in. I assume that most of you guys have plugged in USB before, but if you haven't, you can't put it in either way, so make sure you don't just shove. And we have that from time to time, and I'm not saying it's you students, but occasionally staff members will put it in the wrong direction and push as hard as they can. Now, that's not going to hurt this mouse. There's nothing you're going to hurt on this $5 mouse if you put it in like that. But on the computer, this is just a little metal sleeve right here that sticks out inside there. So if I put this in the wrong way and I shove as hard as I can, I certainly will ruin that port on the computer. Okay? So occasionally we have teachers say, yeah, my USB port doesn't work anymore. And I go down there and that little connector on the inside is completely broken off. Now, if it used to work and it doesn't work now, who broke it off? Not me. Okay? So that happens from time to time where we look in there and they say, well, it doesn't work very well anymore. Well, okay. So that's USB. The other connector that we use all the time is our network connector, which is an 8-pin connector, which looks just like a phone cord, but it's got 8 wires. Phone cords have 4 wires and use 2 of them. Network cables have 8 wires and use 4 of them, unless it's traveling at 10 gig, which some of ours do. Okay, so but you still have to all work, or they can short themselves out. So those are some of the connectors on the back of a PC. The last one is the 6-pin connector, which is used for legacy keyboards and mice. So this right here, it's called a PS2 connector, and one of them is purple and one of them is green. Which one does a mouse go to? Just so you know. Okay? So you had a 50-50 chance. Good job, Ian, taking the chance. Wrong guess. Okay, so the mouse always goes to the green, and the keyboard always goes to the purple. Okay? Definitely a test question. Because they look exactly the same. If you don't know the colors when you plug them in, you're going to get it wrong. Okay? So that's why I just stomped my foot there. Okay? Mouse is always green, keyboard's always purple. Do we have many of those at this school? Not many. No, very few. Does that mean you don't need to know it? Absolutely not. This class is not about just maintaining tech here. It's about hardware in general, not just National Trail hardware. So you do need to know this, okay? So keyboards are purple, mice are green, and again, that's a 90% of the time. You get some HP stuff that's a different color. They use orange when everybody else used purple and green, and they used it exactly opposite. They used keyboard purple or orange, mouse purple. Yeah. Yes.
The charging station and the office.
What do you mean? Yeah. Why? Is the power switch off in the back? There's a switch. The switch is on the back of the power thing. There's an on-off switch. Yeah. You have to turn it on for it to be on. Definitely a requirement. I can't get it to turn on. Did you hit the switch? No, I didn't know there was a switch. Well, that could be what it is. Okay, so back to what we were talking about. So this is an older PC. Here's our VGA plug for our video. If I've got a VGA cable, should I plug this blue one right here into that? You're shaking your head no, why?
Doesn't look like the right size.
It is the right size. It's exactly the right size. Is the answer yes or no? You're going, why would you ask me that question, Mr. Poole? It's a trick. It is a trick! Here's why it's a trick. Because there's a video card plugged into this PC. And if there's a video card on the PC and there's video down on an add-in card, you don't ever, ever, ever use the one that's on the motherboard. By the way, all these things right here are the components that are part of the motherboard on this PC. They're the built-in components, okay? I will sometimes use the words built-in. If I spelled that right at all, look at that. I'm like dyslexic today. I'm normally not completely. Okay, B-U-I-L-T, there we go, in or integrated. Okay, those are those things that are part of the motherboard that you can't take out. They're integrated, they're built into this PC. Okay, and then we've got things and everything down here are add-ons, okay, or expansion components on this PC. And if we added something on, it always trumps what was integrated. Okay? The computer will turn off this. This does not work anymore, even though it will plug in just fine. Why are you telling me that, Mr. Poole? Because you know how many times students go out and plug into there and then call me up and go, video doesn't work on this computer. It's like, I just tested it, I know it does. Nope, I got it all plugged in, it doesn't work. Okay? Well, no, it doesn't work because I just told you this won't work if this exists, okay? If this is the only plug on the computer, if this is the only video on the computer, it definitely will work. That's what that one is for. That's why that one is blue, and this will plug into it perfectly, okay? But so is this one. That one's blue. It may not look exactly the same color because the photo itself, but it is exactly the same color. And this one trumps this one, okay? Add-on always trumps integrated on components. And there's our digital video connection there as well. So you could use either one of these two kind of connections, okay? And we've got both throughout the school. Okay, here's one with a bunch of labels on it showing the keyboard is purple, the mouse is green, there's some USB slots. We really don't use these serial ports or communication ports. I shouldn't say we don't use them at all. We do. I've got I think I just took that whole box of them over to the other closet. We've got a whole box of cables that connect. That's how we connect up to our switches to program them. You guys won't be using serial cable anytime soon. This is what a game port used to look like. Doesn't exist anymore, right? Everything's USB. You ever bought a game port controller? I have one. I have a really cool old one. I wish I could get a game port on my PC because it's a really good Rumble, Microsoft twists in it. It's really nice. Okay. So the last thing I haven't talked about is sound. Yeah, I need a pen. Sound, this is another one that you will see on the test. Okay, I've got green, blue, and pink. Here, I'll switch colors. Okay, so what is green? Out, which is my...
No. Speakers.
Yeah, there we go, speakers, okay? So speakers are green. Where do we plug headphones in? You ever plug a headphone in the back of a PC? Headphone plugs are always in the front, right? So the back of the PC, the green one is for our speakers. Could you plug headphones there? Yes, but you're not going to climb around the back. There's almost always a headphone jack in the front for headphones. So then I've got blue. Blue is input, okay? What is an input?
Microphone?
What's pink?
Microphone.
Okay. Pink, I don't have a pink pen, so I'm using red, is our microphone. Okay. What is an audio in device? It's not a microphone, okay? And by the way, most microphones anymore are now what? USB. Good microphones are USB. Okay. Do we have some like this? Of course we do. Have some like that. But most of them are USB. These are the two things you're going to plug in the most. You're going to plug in your speakers to green and your mics to the pink. A sound-in device would be like if you've got a cassette recorder that you're going to digitize. We have some of those where they digitize the sound. That's a sound-in device. If I had a stereo hooked up to my PC, that would be a sound-in device. Not the same as a microphone. Okay, so that's what that is. And then I got another newer PC here to look at as well. Okay, I use this picture on every test, and it always astounds me that anyone can get the question wrong of which color is a mouse. Why does that astound me when I use this picture? Look at the picture.
So close up.
Now there's a little mouse right there on the picture. And there's a little keyboard right there on the picture. And yet I say, which color is the keyboard? Is the keyboard the purple or the green? And somebody always says green. That is a little picture of a mouse right there. Doesn't it look like a mouse? It's a mouse. It's printed in the metal. I didn't put it there. Okay, but yet people still get that wrong. So hopefully you're one step ahead of the people who got that wrong. Okay, this is a 6-channel audio or better. There's also 8-channel audio. And it has extra audio connectors to hook up into your soundboard. This one doesn't have a fiber optic. Oh, it does right here. Okay, so that square one right there is really part of the sound. That's a fiber optic connector. You can buy a fiber cable that's supposed to carry the best sound possible from your PC to your surround sound system. Okay, I have that on mine at home. The cable is really expensive unless you buy it on eBay, and then it's $5. Okay, so I mean, literally, if you go to Walmart to get it, it's like an $80 cable, and if you're willing to wait 5 days, get it on eBay for $5, and it plugs directly in from my DVD to my TV, so that my DVD is also my surround sound system, and so anything that's on the TV, I can put surround sound through that little fiber optic cable. A lot of people don't even know what that plug is on the back of their TV or their DVD system or their sound system, and that's where it is, little fiber optic cable that just plugs right in. Okay, another video card down here. This is just like this one, pretty much. Okay, but it may exactly, because this is a system we used to have. I may have taken this picture, I don't know. So it's got your digital, an analog, and another analog. This one is a newer card, so it's an analog, digital on there as opposed to the other. Okay. Okay, so that's the PC before we move on. Questions on PCs. Do you guys feel like, if you're looking at my picture, see? Here we go. Ah, wrong one. Yep, that's the wrong one. Okay, see, now I can't look. I was trying to look right. Okay, so the PC itself. Questions on the PC. Do you guys feel like you could set up a PC at this point? I know you haven't done one, but we will, okay? But do you have a basic, I know I can hook up USB, I mean, because realistic, of those things, on a PC that we hook up, it's usually a USB keyboard, USB mouse, even though we show the PS2 ones instead, because they're harder. You can do USB in any slot. And then usually, with student systems, well, almost with all of them, we use the analog because the digital is going to the TV. We do have some digital where we have two monitors. Treasurer's office has two, librarian has two, but most people, the second one is the projector. I personally wish I had a better one so I could have 3 on mine and mount one on the wall, because I'm always turning around to you guys to work on that one, and I'd rather just be facing you guys at the same time. Okay, so that's the PC. No questions right now. No. No? Okay. You're not, everybody else is going like this. You're like, okay. Okay, so the next thing is hooking up the PC as far as the network goes itself. Now, we have all kinds of switches in our network. Switches can be really big. I'm trying to find a small one. There we go. Really big to really small. Okay, this is a small 5-port switch, and they go up to as big as 48-port switches. And what a switch does is it takes one Ethernet cable and it takes the traffic and sends it out to the other ports. Okay, it goes and says, okay, I got your info, and it sends it out to the other ones. Now, switches can be smart and switches can be dumb, or sometimes we're the ones that are dumb when we hook up switches. So the reason we talk about this is because this is a gotcha that happens almost every year. Actually, I don't know if it did last year. Last year may have been one of the first years that it didn't happen, that we didn't hook up stuff correctly. So I kind of want to go over it now. You guys don't hook up PCs as much as it used to. It used to be that the first 2 to 3 weeks of this class was going around hooking up all the PCs in the district, because maintenance pulls them all out and then puts them all back unwired. And I didn't used to have Mr. Anderson in the summertime, and on top of Mr. Anderson being here, we had Mr. Ballinger, who is a volunteer intern that worked all summer with us as well. So we had more people to hook those things up. So we got 98% of them hooked up. There's still 2 rooms that aren't, but other than that, that's it. So you guys used to do all this hookup. And it's really important that you know how to hook it up so that you don't hook it up wrong, okay? Because wrong is really, really bad. Now, this looks like it's completely obvious and that no one would ever do this, okay? If this repeats the traffic that comes in here, if I plug, this is unpowered right now, so it's not a big deal. If this is hooked up to my network, so all traffic that comes in here will then go out to this port. What did I just do?
A loop?
Yeah, I made a loop. Loop is very, very bad, okay? Because there's thousands of pieces of information coming into this port every second. And it's going to send it out at this port, and it's going to come in this port. And because this isn't a smart switch, it just came in this port, so it's going to send it out that port and that port. Well, if it's sending out that port, it's coming back in this port. So it's going to send it back out that port again, and that port. And how long does it take for the entire network to crash? About 30 seconds. It's about all it takes with a feedback loop. Okay? Now, it only happens on dumb switches, which means it only happens when you guys do it. Because the main closet, they're all smart. That $2,000 switch is not going to do this. It's going to go, whoa, I just told you that, and you told it right back to me, I'm turning you off. It takes about 5 seconds for it to see feedback traffic and go, you're off. Now, that just turned off this room, maybe, but it didn't turn off the network. So feedback loops are bad. So, Mr. Poole, that's ridiculous. Obviously, I can see that cable goes right out and comes right back in. Well, that may be true when you're doing it right here. But when we go to hook up stations, we have a whole row of these 12 workstations, and we have cables sticking out here, and students invariably just start plugging them into the network. And the cable goes down behind the desk, and it's blue, and there's another blue cable that comes up over here, and it was really supposed to be plugged into that PC, but you didn't know that because you didn't wire it. So whenever we're wiring up stuff, particularly the Ethernet, you don't have to pull out every single wire, but the Ethernet, we always pull all the way out and put it all the way back in to avoid that. Now, obviously, this yellow one would stand out, and if I only saw one yellow wire and it was plugged in twice, it would be pretty obvious. But most of our wires aren't yellow. Most of them look like this because we made them, or the blue ones because we made them. We have very few ones that are pink or yellow, and we use them for specific stuff. But anyway, so that's a feedback loop, and that's really, really bad. A lot of times this happens in classrooms because the student that's not part of my class sees a plug undone. They just see it hanging there, and so they plug it in. And so we try not to leave extra cables. I was just down to Mrs. Gray's room. In fact, that's where this switch came from. It was mounted on her wall, and there was a cable just hanging from it because it used to go to something. It was hanging like that. Given enough time, someone would take that cable and plug it in here thinking they were doing us a favor because why would it be hanging there and not plugged in? Now, the cable was really long, and they may not have known it came right back in. But that happens, okay? So Ethernet cables we're very, very careful with. The newest switches are really, really fast. We've gotten rid of all of these. We used to have both these in the district, and these were really, really dumb. The newest ones are a little bit better, but they're still switches. Switches will take this. In fact, this was a dumb hub. You see how this is separated from all the other ones? You had to plug this in to the one going to the network and this into the PCs. This one doesn't matter which one goes to the wall. Even though you see this one separated just a little bit, the switch is smart enough that anything plugged to anything, it will talk to. Okay, so that's a switch. So when we do this, the switch has to go, and we see this quite frequently. They'll plug the switch into the PC, and this is plugged in and powered. This requires power, by the way. Without power, it is doing nothing. Okay, and so the light's on right here, and the light's on right here, and is anybody home? Why wouldn't that work? I'm plugged into the switch because the switch has to be plugged into the wall. That happens all the time too. That you guys will go out to a room and the switch is lit up with 7 lights and there's 7 computers. There better be 8 lights if there's 7 computers, because one of those lights has to go to the wall to connect it up to the rest of us. Okay? So when it comes to connecting up, I will go, the first thing I'll do is I'll find the switch and I'll look at the switch and I'll say there's 3 PCs, therefore there should be 4 lights. If there's 5 lights, there's a feedback loop, because there can't be 5 if there's 3, pretending there's 3 PCs here, because there should be 1 light for each PC and 1 light for the wall. So that's the first thing I count. The other thing is the power frequently gets unplugged or lost. These are very specific, just so you know. If I don't plug the right one of these and the right one of these, 2 things are going to happen. Number 1, it doesn't work at all. Number 2, I fry it. Okay? This one is actually pretty good. This one fries really easy. I put the wrong power supply in this one, I might as well throw it away. In fact, this may be the one I'm supposed to throw away because one of them I tried and it doesn't work anymore. Okay? If you get the wrong, because even though the plug fits, that doesn't mean it's made for it. Okay? I don't know if this one's going to fit. It does, okay? So this fits, but it's not made for this one. And this goes for you guys on any time you're plugging in any kind of wall adapter in. All of these have separate powers, and we're going to talk about power in Chapter 3, but this one in particular, I need my glasses because I'm getting old. This is 3 amps and 12 volts. Okay, 12 volts come out of this and 3 amps. And this, I'm almost positive, is 1 amp. 7 volts. I'm going to look at the actual power supply that goes to this one because it's plugged in over here. So this one, even though the plug fits, this one is 1 amp, and 5 volts. So that one puts out 3 times as much power in voltage and 3 times as much amperage too. So this one, without question, would fry this baby good. Okay? So if you don't know 100%, don't just plug stuff in. Make sure you know, and if you're like, hey, and all power adapters say what they put out right on there. It says output, and then it says how many volts and how many amps, and you learn what volts and amps is in Chapter 3. But basically, this should have an input. This one doesn't have an input on the bottom that I can see. Oh, it does right there. Sorry, it says right there. So it says right there, power input 5V 1A. So 5 volts and 1 amp. It says what's supposed to come into this. And right here on the output, you can read it better than me. It says 12 volts, 1 amp. So it's okay. I read that wrong. So it's 2.5 times more powerful than this is supposed to have. That would fry it. Okay. The reason they have specific voltages is because that's what's supposed to be going in. And if you put something else in, you just fry the circuit. So you got to make sure when we plug those things in that we're plugging the right thing in when we do it. Okay. So this is my little order of how we plug stuff in and connect things in. We unplug and pull out everything. When we go and hook up, redo a workstation, the best thing we do is just unplug it and get it all out and make sure. Can't tell you how many times we go down to the elementary school and they say, these don't work. This mouse doesn't work at all. And you're going like this on the mouse, and if you look over there, the mouse is over here going, because they've moved them and they've plugged them in wrong. Okay? So if we unplug and pull out everything to start with, we know when you guys set it up that you set up this mouse goes with this monitor kind of thing. Okay? So we make sure we've got all the parts that we need. We put the PC and the monitor and space them out nicely. When we set up anything, this is our workstation, but we like them to look as nice as possible when you guys hook stuff up. And the reason we want them to look as nice as possible because in general, people take better care of stuff that looks nice. Which is why we'd rather give you laptops that look nicer so that you take better care of them, which is not true of everyone. We have those students that broke 4 laptops last year. Doesn't matter what we gave some of them, they're going to break it. Okay? But it's also why we say when you get your laptop, if it's not right, please bring it in the first week or two, which I forgot to say this, seniors. Okay? But you guys should know that. If it's not right, bring it in right away. If you bring it in 3 months from now and said the screen was broken, Mr. Poole cannot believe you. I can't. Because number one, it shouldn't have been broken. Although we did find one yesterday that was. And number two, I can't just willy-nilly believe people when I've been using it broken all year, but I got it that way. Anyway. So wire the externals, keyboards, mouse, network, and monitor. Tie up any extra wires so they're as hidden as possible. We try to use zip ties and tie up stuff right here in the back so you can't see them. One thing that I hate, please don't do, is to wrap the cord around the base because it makes it a nightmare for the next person if they have to move it. The last thing we always do is plug power in. Always, always, always. And the reason we always do power last is because you don't know whether this PC is set to automatically turn on when power is applied. Some of them are, some of them are not. My PC over there, if you plug it in, it's turning on. Okay? And if it's turning on and you don't have everything else hooked up, the last thing you want to do, by the way, is then just yank the power up. Let it finish booting up, then turn it off, then unplug the power, then finish what you're doing. Last thing we always do is plug in the power. That will be a test question. What's the last thing you always do when setting up a PC? Is plug in the power. And then we test the system. And by testing the system, I think you have a slide on that, I think. All right, progress. Oh, I'm not in the right one. Let me go there. I'm talking about starting it up, logging in as you, making sure you get to the web, and see if you have an H drive. If those things are true, the system is going to work for the next guy too. Okay? But we always log in as you because generally you haven't logged onto this PC before. So if you can log in, it's good. Okay, that's not a good test like on his laptop. Okay, now she could log into his laptop and be a good test whether it's online, but it's not a good test whether he can because he's already logged on once and it remembers this. It remembers this for 10 logons, which is why you're actually I think I have it set for even more than that on the network so that you guys could use them at home over Christmas break and not get locked out. But the default on a network is 10 logons. Then it will remember you and continue to let you log on 10 times, and then after that, if you're not on the network, to refresh it will let you on. So I want you to log on, make sure you can get to the web. Don't just go to Google. Google always loads. Go to Google and then type help. And then if it comes up to a screen that search for help, that's good. Make sure you've got your H drive, your S drive. I need to change the names of these. You guys know you get both, right? H and S. Why is that, Mr. Poole? It's goofy. Because I wanted to move everybody to H. However, well, I don't have it 780. The teacher 780s have those media card readers, and they go, all those are separate drives, and they go all the way through H. So over in the middle school, they didn't get to see their H drive. So I had to put it back to S. Anyway, so then you just log off. That's what I mean when I say testing a system. Okay. Well, this is a really old picture. I need to put a newer picture on here. It is a good example of a nice, clean workstation, but we threw away all those kind of monitors. And actually, I don't even know if we have any white keyboards left anymore, or many left. But this was an example of a clean workstation with, you can't see any wires. There's nothing sticking out there. She's got the mouse and the keyboard and the monitor, and it's a nice, clean workstation showing up. I keep forgetting to replace these photos. Same thing. You don't see any wires out even on the floor where the PCs used to be. We don't do this anymore, but we used to put the PCs on the floor and have all the wires in there underneath as well. Okay? And I think that's it for the intro and hooking up a PC. And we're close enough to the end of the class, I'm not going to continue on and start another one. I'll stop it right there. Does anybody not have a computer at home? Okay, so everybody's here got some access at home. So what I'd like you guys to do as far as your homework is I would like you to, number one, get the course introduction stuff done this weekend before I see you again on Tuesday. You guys all have laptops on Monday anyway, right? Nobody here's a freshman, they're getting them on Tuesday. So you're all your laptops anyways, but I'd like you to get all the course introduction stuff done. And then I want you to read these two, which should be a refresher of what we just went over, hooking up a PC and how to hook up a computer. And then we're going to start on how computers work next class and start going into all the parts and everything, the Chapter 1 overview, and starting getting into the meat of Chapter 1 next class. Okay? We only have 5 minutes. So, anybody got any questions? No. Okay? And then, at the end of class, you need to remind me to hit